love some honest opinion on that. And this thing about training, judging players on training, I think is so unfair, because you're right, some players will hold it back and save their best for the match, which is when you want it. Absolutely when you want it.
Now, I would have had no argument with this if he would have signed Slimani for Mitrovic. So, because if you ask me which one of those two I would rather have, I would have Slimani, right? I would, just from watching him play over the last couple of seasons. That's what I would have. But they signed him, and he's not played a game for him yet. So that's a huge concern.
Yeah.
So if he came and he was fit and he was ready to play, I totally get it, Aid. I totally get it, because he don't fancy him. He fancies Gale, Joselu and Perez over him. But with the lack of goals these have scored, their top scorer has 5 goals. Gale scored 5 goals.
It's not good enough,
as their striker. We're talking about Murray is having his best season ever. He's got 11.
Curtis Woodhouse, friend of the show, ex-footballer turned boxer, says he's speaking to his mate Andy Ward, a big Sheffield United fan, goes home and away, and obviously they lost to Fulham last night. He said Mitrovic was unplayable last night, best striker he's seen this season, and so that's what fans of opponents are saying about the striker is now at Fulham. Let's speak to a Newcastle fan. Mark is with us on the show. What do you want to say, Mark?
Good evening, fellas. How's it going?
Very well. Good to have you on.
The first thing I'll say is I'm not one of these Rafa lovers. I do believe he's not doing the best for the club, but I'll leave that for another conversation. One of the reasons why it's Rafa's fault is down to his arrogance, because he won't change the system to play to Mitrovic's strengths. All this GPS and training, it's because he won't run down the right wing, he won't run down the left wing. That's not what Mitrovic's strength is. Mitrovic's strength is, I'll be in the centre, you get the ball to me, I'll hold it up, I'll either score the ball or lay it off for somebody for them to score the ball. Serbia played with strengths, Anderlecht played with strengths, but Rafa refuses to turn around and say, okay, that's what you're good at. You can score goals doing that. So you know what? I'll change the system because we need the goals. And basically what he's done, he's shifted out saying he's not my type of player. Well, basically, it's Rafa saying, I'm refusing to change to score goals. I'm going to stick with what I've got. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm the boss, and that's the way it is.
Saying that, Mark, just quickly on that, Aguero didn't really fit into Guardiola's plans because of the way he played. But Aguero's knuckled down and worked his way in to his way of thinking. So couldn't Mitrovic do that for Rafa?
The two different type of players. If you look at them physically, Mitrovic is what it says archetypal, target man. He's big, he's strong, he's not fast, he's not particularly mobile as such. So whereas Aguero can make those little runs and those little darts, Mitrovic is basically like he's a modern version of Andy Carroll. You get the ball, he can hold it up, he can hold the defenders off, he can turn, he can shoot, but he can't run and he can't do the crosses. And then that's what the type of player that Rafa wants. Like Gale will go down the wing, Perez could go down the wing, but Mitrovic he can't. He's not that type of player. So you could try to get him to do that, but what you'll find is, oh hang on, he can't cross the ball, or he's getting caught by the defender because he's not quite quick enough.
But Mark, thanks for the call. Listen, there's a lot to love about Rafa Benitez. He's been a winner. Won the championship with Newcastle last season. But right now, and he's right to start the season with his philosophy, this is how I want things done, blah, blah, blah. But in the position Newcastle are in, where they're going to need goals to survive between now and the end of the season, I think he probably should have just reined it in a little bit and said, all right, we've got a finisher here, and I just need to keep him on board. And never mind sending him out to Fulham and giving him a target that will get Fulham promoted. That's not going to help Newcastle whatsoever, other than if they sell him, it will get them a few more quid. So I can't help but thinking that this might be a bit of an error. Love to know what you think. And can you really judge players on what they do in training? This is TalkSport.
Drive on TalkSport with Sky Sports. Feel it all on Sky Sports with channels dedicated to the sports you love, available across all devices. Plus enhanced features and highlights available on the Sky Sports app.
Some nights, your takeaway might come with an extra bag of spring rolls. But a bonus game? Well, that's definitely happening every night.
Between 9 and 11 every night, our unmissable bonus game is guaranteed to trigger in Sky Vegas bonus time. Only at Sky Vegas. Unexpect more. 18 plus, ends 3rd of July. Customers must be playing when bonus games randomly triggered. Minimum 20p stake. Free spins must be claimed and used by midnight. Eligibility restrictions and further T's and C's apply. BeGambleAware.org. When the fun stops, stop.
With a 7-inch touchscreen, DAB radio and Apple CarPlay, the ABBA 595 Trofeo keeps you...
Road. One lane closed now because of a broken down lorry, and that's causing some slow traffic. Michelle Bignan, 5 Live Traffic.
Thanks, Michelle. Once again, I'll just reiterate, after that interview I did with my sister, we've got Martin Lewis coming up on the same subject very shortly. I've never seen the text console so busy, and I feel so guilty that I cannot read all the text.
Listen, don't you be feeling guilty about that on top of everything else.
Here's just a couple then, very quickly. Jane says, thanks for raising this. My mother died when I was 9. She had cancer. It was never mentioned, even though she only had a year to live. She went to hospital in Cheltenham, was moved to London where she died. I was only allowed to see her once during this time. My dad told me one morning that she died, and I was then packed off to school, and she was not mentioned again. And you were not told that she died, or what she died of, or when the funeral was. I never got to go. It was 1975. People never realise what it's like to lose their mother until they do so themselves. I didn't realise until I had children myself how much of an impact it's had on me. That's from Jane. Another one here. I'm driving home in tears listening to your interview with your sister. My mum died when I was 21. She was 52. I hate Mother's Day. I feel cheated of the happiness of not having a mum, and my boys cheated of the warmth of her love, kindness and the cooking. That's Carmela from Taunton. We've obviously tapped, as I thought we might do here, thousands of people who've had these emotions that have been unexpressed for years. Maybe we can all help each other over the next day or two. Thanks very much. 85058 if you've got anything to say.
Doing your bit in the sponsored run. 7,136 steps. Organising an impromptu conga round the office. 116 steps. Even making a cup of tea. 7 steps. And every step counts in the nation's Billion Steps Challenge. Get the Sport Relief app, get stepping, and start raising money today. Find out more at bbc.co.uk/sportrelief.
Now we've got a better idea of how the EU thinks a post-Brexit relationship with Britain will work. The EU Council President, Donald Tusk, has revealed the draft guidelines for the negotiations. He wants an ambitious and advanced free trade agreement, but warned Brexit means we will be drifting apart.
I propose that we aim for a trade agreement covering all sectors and with zero tariff on goods. Like other free trade agreements, it should address services. And in fisheries, reciprocal access to fishing waters and resources should be maintained.
Adam Fleming is the BBC's Brussels reporter and was at the announcement in Luxembourg this afternoon.
And the message from President Tusk here today was that with the current UK red lines, the best he could offer would be a partnership on security, defence, aviation, and on trade, the best would be a free trade agreement. To Brexit watchers, lots of this will not come as a surprise because it's the sort of thing the EU has been saying for weeks and weeks when they've looked at what the British want. But I thought it was interesting when I spoke to President Tusk in that news conference when I asked him, does this come anything close to what the Prime Minister asked for in her Mansion House speech on Friday? He gave an incredibly long pause, which suggests he knows that it isn't. I think probably what will be shocking for some people is seeing it written down in text form saying this is what's going to happen, and also reading the warning in the document circulated by the EU today that this could have serious economic consequences for Britain. But if you read the small print, there's a section of the document which says other options are on the table if the UK is willing to reconsider its red lines. That's the EU saying to the UK, if you're prepared to make some big compromises, they're prepared to make some big compromises too.
That was Adam Fleming. Well, Jonathan Iserby is the editor of Brexit Central, and that is a pro-leave news website. Afternoon to you, Jonathan.
Good afternoon, sir.
So what do you make of the announcement?
Well, what Donald Tusk has said is that he wants there to be a free trade agreement between the UK and the EU in the style of CETA+++, the CETA being the deal that was done with Canada, which is what, frankly, a lot of Brexiteers have been calling for quite a long time. So on the fundamentals, we're in a good place, but on the specifics, he said he didn't want to see the British taking a pick-and-mix attitude on all this. Well, frankly, I think he's picking and mixing himself by looking at some of the demands he's making of the UK, the things that he wants to get out of the UK, in particular access to British fish, access to the world-class British universities, while at the same time ruling out things like the deal on financial services, which obviously Philip Hammond has been talking about this afternoon.
What are the red lines? There was some wiggle room. I've also spoken to an Italian MEP about this afternoon, who seemed to suggest that there is a possibility to renegotiate or to negotiate further if Britain gives up on some of its red lines. Do you think that should happen, will happen? What would they be?
Look, this is the very beginning of a negotiation.